Welcome to the Fannin County Chamber Candidate Forum for the runoff election on August 11th for Chairman of the Fannin County Board of Commissioners. On behalf of the Fannin County Chamber of Commerce and the Governmental Affairs Committee, I'd like to thank ETC3 for televising this forum and live streaming it on their ETC3 Facebook page. The videotape of the forum will also be shown on the Chamber Facebook page and in our e-newsletter at a later date. Stephen Miracle is my co-moderator this evening. Candidates in the runoff are Stan Helton, the current chairman of the Fannin County Board of Commissioners, and Jamie Hensley. The format for this evening will be as follows. The candidates are going to be asked to give a 3-minute opening statement. They will then be asked questions from the committee and submitted by the members of the public. Each question has a 2-minute response time and a 2-minute rebuttal if desired. This is a forum, not a debate. The goal is to help Fannin County voters learn more about the candidates. After the question and answer period, the candidates will give a 2-minute closing statement.
So it's time for our first question, and the first question begins with Mr. Hensley.
Actually, it's time for the opening statements.
I'm sorry about that.
So
we'll have opening statements, and Mr. Helton, if you will take 3 minutes for your opening statement.
Well, first I want to thank the Fannin Chamber, ETC, and especially all the citizens that are watching tonight that are going to be deciding this important decision for Fannin County. 4 years ago, I promised to get things done and to get the business of the people handled. Get your tax dollars watched as I do my own. I've kept that promise. Working and cooperating with the post commissioners the last 3.5 years, we voted unanimously 96% of the time on almost 400 business votes. Fannin citizens have historically demanded low tax rates, and since 2017, we've dropped property millage rates 15% to the lowest rate in Georgia, while counties all around us have been increasing theirs. We reorganized the county road department, calling it now Public Works, with professional management, producing a leaner, more efficient organization that saved $999,000 audited dollars in the first year, and we've kept it there. We also have paved 84 miles in the county roads, paved and resurfaced, and that's 2.5 times the rate of the previous administration. We challenged an overfunded tax assessor's office and asked them to be more efficient and demanded better service to the public, all the time taking their budget back to a more manageable level. Since 2017, a budget of $1,019,000 has gone to $677,000 this year, a savings of $342,000. They've met that challenge. In 2017, we inherited a $27 million a year budget that had grown 20% in the preceding year and was spiraling out of control. By challenging the 43 departments and agencies that justify their expenses, we've slowed budget growth to only 1.8% each year. Public safety is our #1 goal, and $8 million per year of your tax dollars goes to EMS, 911, fire and rescue, and to law enforcement, including animal control. Last year, we dedicated the new $4.1 million public safety complex without a single dollar of outside debt, making a decades-long dream a reality. I'm proud of the strong relationship we built with the Fannin school system and partnered with them on properties like the Forest Service, which will now be their new school bus facilities. I have 34 years experience running a $1 billion-plus petroleum business, past chairman of the Water Authority, current member of the Regional Commission in Calhoun, a business graduate of the University of Georgia, current chairman, and ready to serve you again.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Helton. Mr. Hensley, it's your time for your 3-minute opening statement.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I too would like to thank ETC3, the Chamber of Commerce, and each one that's tuned in this evening to allow us the opportunity to try and earn your vote. June the 9th, there was a lot of folks come out to vote. There was 4 candidates running. 2 of us are left. We were humbled at the support we received during the primary. We hope to carry that into this runoff to try to lead this county in a positive direction. We run on 4 things. First of all, I feel we have to build our foundation back up. And in doing so, it's infrastructure, communication, accountability, and transparency. In each of those categories, obviously there's subtitles, if you will, but I understand we don't have all the numbers that weren't made available to us at the time. I've never been in politics, but I can guarantee you one thing, that I will never forget who I work for. I have served the public in the capacity that I'm in for over 30 years. And in that 30 years, I have never forgotten who I've worked for. That is a guarantee. I promise you right now that we will do our best to maintain those lowest tax rates in the state of Georgia, which we have been proud of for several years, and we will continue to do that. We will do our best to keep us out of debt. We will not go back in debt. If we can't purchase it, we're not going to go in debt for it. We will just do our best. That's the only thing I can say. And I hope and pray that the good Lord will lead us and guide us in the direction that the county sees fit to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll start with our question period. And we'll begin with Mr. Hensley. And the first question is, what have you done to prepare yourself for holding the office you seek?
Well, what I have done is I have tried to get with the departments to see exactly their needs, where we could cut back if need be. Try to look at the wasteful spending that's going on. But I've also, like I say, I've served the public. And by doing so, I have listened to their needs as well. And their needs they're simple. You know, we really need, obviously, we need to catch up to the growth that as far surpasses, but that's it. How have I prepared myself? By going out asking, listening, having 2 ears and 1 mouth, that goes a long way, and just trying my best to find the needs of the citizens. And from what I understand, it's simple as communication. You know, communication goes a long way, and I do believe that we can, if we work together, we can make this happen.
Thank you. Mr. Helton, same question, please.
Well, I would rely on the accomplishments, the real things that we can present. And what I can tell you again, we've twice lowered the millage property rate, which is very important to the senior population and people that don't even own property, because even if you rent property, the owner is going to have higher taxes and would raise your rent. So it's something, property tax rates are important to everyone. And we've dropped them 15% from what they were 4 years ago. And actually, if you refer back years ago, seven years ago, it's 24% lower than that. We completed the public safety complex, a $4.1 million total project without any outside debt. We slowed the budget growth to 1.8% after inherited a budget that had grown 20% in the previous year and 34% in the previous 3 years. We reintroduced chip sealing, an old process that's still around, but it's very effective at reducing gravel and scraping cost, eliminating dust, which is great for people, and we've been able to do that at 2.5 times the rate of the previous administration. Reduce staffing. It's a difficult thing to reduce government. It's extremely difficult when you stand on conservative principles and make that happen. But we focused on that with my financial background. There's no wasted spending been in Fannin County these last 3.5 years. Our auditors can confirm that with 3 solid audits, including this year, that shows that Fannin County is on a very good trajectory for financial strength, and we've steered away from the rocks that the county was headed for a few years ago. So we've been very solid on that, and we have numbers to back us up, not just words and promises.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question, and Mr. Helton, we'll start with you for this question. What is your motivation for running for this office?
Well, there's a number of things I'd like to see happen in the county, and it's difficult to do that in 4 years. It's pretty difficult the first year or so just to learn what you're doing with the job, and then when you get a better handle, you want to move forward. There's some accomplishments I'd like to see. The White Path, the old timers like myself call that the Van Ralt building. That was a great purchase, and it was mandated by the voters in Fannin County on 2016 SPLOST to acquire a new administration building, to move administration out of the current courthouse, to separate the court function from administration, free up parking, and it also, we obtained the objective of probably 150 to 200 parking spots. And if we can get a $2 million grant through the state for the library, we can double the size of where they're at on a reasonable budget, not some Taj Mahal that some folks want to build. I'd like to see the #2 fire station at Mineral Bluff be improved. New property, new building, where we could have 24/7 operations there like we have at 4 other fire stations in the county. I'd like to continue our projects, our targets for Recreation Department. They have about 10 goals that our library, our Recreation Board had proposed. We're knocking those off one at a time. New ball fields for the 10-year-olds, and continue our success partnering with TVA and the Forest Service to improve recreation areas all through the county for everyone to have access, and to continue building on our great relationship with the school system. After all, it's your tax dollars that funds both organizations. We should work together synergistically to improve your tax revenue and the use of it, and that's exactly what I would do if I'm reelected.
Okay, Mr. Hensley, what is your motivation for running for this office?
Well, realistically, we kind of agree on a couple of things, to be honest with you, but I'm all for the rec department as well. I really believe that investing in the youth and taking care of the elderly is where we need to be, and obviously I have a vision at some point in time, whether it's in my lifetime or the next, to have a wellness center at some point in time. That would be fantastic. We have some seniors that are here that aren't allowed, or let me rephrase that are unable to hike the mountains and things like they used to. So, trying to get them in a something that they can stay healthy and young as well is something. Working with the school board as well on that, because I know our surrounding areas, they're developing swim teams. So it would be awesome to see that at some point in time later on in the future. Also to unite people. With as diverse of people that are moving in, we have locals, the natives, if you will, and people who've just moved in, and we would love to see us to come together as one and move forward in a positive manner. So that is a big goal of mine. Also, like I say, keeping the taxes down, making Fannin County the best place possible. And I mean, it's my home. I love it, and I want everybody to love it as well. We want to be the best in the state of Georgia. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Mr. Hensley, the next question starts with you, and it reads as follows. What are your 2 or 3 priorities for the next 4 years should you be elected? How do you plan to accomplish these priorities, and particularly how do you plan to fund them?
Well, I think the first priority with me would be to get everybody on the same page. I think getting the growth that has come to Fannin County, I think maybe getting more of a controlled growth, if you will. And by doing that, it's working with the other municipalities, with the other mayors in the county. Would love to develop a line of communication with them for us all to be on the same page in our growth. That way we're not split here and we're not split there, and I would love to see that happen. I would also love to see our public safety and our public works be funded the way that they need to be funded. It's hard to become a training facility for other counties. And we have some good people here in Fannin County. We have some good people working for us. We would love to keep them home. But we also understand that we must find the funds to get them to where they're staying home and raising their families here at home. So we would do our best to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Hilton, same question. What are your top 2 or 3 priorities in the next 4 years should you be reelected? And how do you plan to accomplish these priorities, and particularly how do you plan to fund them?
Well, I think I've sort of hit on that earlier when I talked about reasons I'd like to be reelected. Of course, the old Van Ralt White Path building, that money, we purchased that property, 4.7 acres, 36,000 square foot building with SPLOST dollars. $1.3 million we paid for in cash. There's an additional $1,850,000 scheduled to come in on SPLOST for that. So if we use that money and with the library grant, if we can make that happen, that's an additional $2 million you can put in that facility. And here's the big thing about that, you don't have to do that all at one time. So you can do it in stages so it doesn't put a crimp on the finances of anything that we do. We do have public safety SPLOST money that we could use for the fire station number 2. There's an allocation there. And something we did a few years ago with the hotel motel tax with Fannin County Chamber, we went where the commission would receive 30%, Chamber 70%. With their acquiescence, we negotiated that slowly where it's 50-50. We took every penny of that increase from the commission board to go into public safety for that account and nothing else. So those funds would be used to improve the fire station that we have there. And if you talk about cooperating with other cities, we have a strategic service delivery agreement with each of them, specifies what we can do, what we can't do, and the services we offer. Now, I feel like cooperation and communication with them is great, but we have to draw the line where we use county funds for city needs. We have to be very careful about that. 90% of the people in Fannin County do not live in the cities, they live out in the country. So we have to protect those dollars and work with them as we do now. But that was how we would do that.
Thank you. Mr. Hensley, you'll have 2 minutes for rebuttal if you wish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next question, and Mr. Helton, we'll start with you on this one. What is the toughest challenge the Board of Commissioners will face in the next 4 years, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, the toughest challenge, there will be a number of things that we had before this year, but the coronavirus challenge is something that caught everyone unaware. There was no way to be proactive with something like that. And what we have had since March, and as you well know, we voted, our Board of Commissioners held an emergency meeting when we had the very first case that hit Fannin County. And we did with the advice of medical professionals, local, regional, and state, to try to slow that growth, slow down the spread of coronavirus. And unfortunately, we had to make a very tough decision to impede and harm our valuable tourism business. That's one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make privately or in government. So going forward, being able to manage that, work with this pandemic, I think is far and above our greatest challenge at this point. Now, that also brings along the concern about finances and revenue. And in March, although at that year to date we were doing fabulous with revenues in the county, middle of March and April just were disastrous. However, since that time, we've had that V-shaped rebound that our president has talked about, and we had a record month in May with recovery in finances. So through May, our county revenue is only off about 2% year to date, but our expenses, we've controlled that, it's off 8%. So in essence, we're 6% ahead through this time. So we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we've got to focus on expenses. You have to be tough on all these 43 different agencies that make up our budget to make sure they're not wasting one tax dollar out of your pocket. And you have to be kind of tough to do that.
Okay, Mr. Hensley, the same question. What's the toughest challenge the Board of Commissioners will face in the next 4 years, and how would you address it?
And COVID-19, it kind of opened a lot of people's eyes, and it really did. Even at our business where I work now, we were all caught by surprise. The thing about that is rebounding from that. But the thing about it is the people of Fannin County are so resilient. And I think, you know, even with the 43 departments you mentioned, even the people of Fannin County know how to pinch a penny. So I think the rebound, I think at the end of the year, we're going to rebound nicely, if you will. I know the unknown of COVID coming back is also a problem, but just getting past those tough decisions and keep the safety of the people of Fannin County and you know the workers, the people who work for Fannin County, keeping those in mind as well. Those are going to be some tough decisions. Also, if there is a downfall of money coming, revenue coming in, how do we recoup that? So that's going to be some of the toughest decisions to make right there moving forward. So we're going to see what we can do. Again, I just feel the people of Fannin County are going to bounce back. We're going to be resilient, we're going to be tough, and we're going to move forward in a positive way.
Okay. Mr. Helton, any rebuttal?
Well, it's new territory for all of us. And there's a real challenge, a real struggle for each of these departments when they are having to put themselves on the line. All of us that work in any position, and certainly in the county, we have to be aware and try to get folks to do the best thing we can do, and that's take individual responsibility for some of the issues with this pandemic. Now, with the county right now, of course, people want more money. Everybody likes more money, but there's some things you need to be aware of. Fannin County spends $9.25 million a year in wages and salaries just for county employees. We spent $2.3 million last year on insurance benefits, and then you could add another $2 million for the additional benefits that the county pays on that. And we have a $4.3 million a year commitment, or a total commitment, for retirement to try to keep the folks that have already retired and the ones that were on the old retirement program up until July 1st. We had to make some changes to protect them and at the same time make sure that our retirement program didn't spiral out of control like it has in some of these big cities who have these funds they'll never be able to pay. So when you look at pay, the county has committed significant money out of your pocket to pay for county employees. And we feel good that if you want to work and you really have the heart for service for the community, you've got security. We expect a job. In fact, when I came in, we raised the bar on performance. And you can't have a bar so high you do chin-ups, but you can't have it on the floor to trip. So you just have to focus on day-to-day things, challenge every department, and ask for ideas. If there's new ideas that help us save money, I'm all ears for that. But it's a day-to-day challenge.
Okay. All right, let's move to the next question, and Mr. Helton will let you start first with this one. The question is, how can Fannin County work with the cities, Blue Ridge, McCaysville, and Morganton, to plan for the future of our community? Would you support the development of a strategic plan for Fannin County's future, which would involve participation of the cities and citizens throughout the county?
We already have that. We have a regional plan that's mandated by the Department of Community Affairs. We had probably 40 to 45 citizens that met the first year I was in office at the old courthouse at the direction of the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission. We had the Development Authority, and Ms. Christy Gribble was heavily involved. Ms. Hackett was involved with that. And this is a plan to work with all areas in the county to optimize what we need to be doing environmentally, business-wise, health issues. Everything was covered under that plan, and it is demanded by the Department of Community Affairs, so you'll be certified and be able to participate in grants and federal monies that come through. Now, on top of that, we have a strategic service delivery agreement with the county and all the municipalities, the qualified municipalities. The county already provides law enforcement. We provide fire, rescue, paramedic and ambulance service, 911 service, tax assessment, tax collection, animal control. These are services we already support. Plus, through the SPLOST allocation, the city of Blue Ridge gets somewhere around $350,000 a year through the SPLOST allocation. McCaysville is close to that. So I feel that Fannin County, it's a misnomer for anyone to think that we're not already working with the cities. Again, those folks are the elected officials of their cities. I don't stick my nose into their business because they're elected to run their cities as best they can. If they want to sit down and discuss anything with me, I'm all open to that. But we have to be careful and make sure we don't overlap those lines. There's legalities involved, and that when you get in government, you have to see those very clearly.
Okay, Mr. Hensley, how can Fannin County work with the cities of Blue Ridge, McKaysville, and Morganton to plan for the future of our community? And would you support the development of a strategic plan for the future that would involve participation of the cities and citizens throughout the county?
And like I said, there's already something in place. However, I think more communication, we just have to have it. And I understand there's boundaries and there's that you just can't surpass and things like that. However, that's the problem now is there's too many, we're split too many ways. And I'm not saying bring us all together as one. All I'm saying is the division that has gone out. And now we're not talking to this and we're not talking to that one, only on certain occasions, things like that. But the communication is key in developing Fannin County, whether it be the cities. We're Fannin County as a whole, and I do understand that. I understand that I'm not running the city and they're elected to do that. I fully understand that. However, we are the county as a whole, and to bring us all together to move forward as one is key. We just can't continue not to communicate and allow this one to straggle here and this one to move over here or do whatever they want to do. We have to come together to try to get on the same page for what's best for Fannin County as a whole, not for one city or the next, but for Fannin County as a whole. And that's something we need to do. So that's where I'm at on that.
Thank you. Any rebuttal?
Yes. You'll be happy to know, Mr. Hensley, communication. We had a meeting this past week up at the new fire station. We included all the mayors and their personnel. We had the fire chief. We had everyone that could participate in a community concern, and that's our ISO rating. And sorry, I didn't see you there, or you might have realized that we do communicate. But we dealt with a problem that is water supply. That's a big part of the ISO rating. So getting all the parties involved with that was big. Back when the COVID pandemic first happened, we had all those same personnel, the cities, the government decision makers, all there trying to do the best thing we could for the community as a whole. Now, sometimes the newspaper gets a hold of things. They like to act like it's the Civil War all over again. And of course, you're going to have strong personalities that may have differences, but we do the best we can for the county, try to consider everything that we can, but I don't step over that line trying to tell the mayor of Blue Ridge what to do or the mayor of any of the other two municipalities. When there's something that helps them that we can work together on, we all try to get together and do that. Sometimes it's difficult to do that in public meetings because some folks want to make a show of themselves, I guess, and kind of take it a different direction. But I can assure you there's a lot of communication that goes on in our county. You just may not see it on the newspaper or there. But we communicate. Every mayor in the county has my cell phone number. They can contact me anytime, and they do.
Thank you. This next question will begin with you, Mr. Hensley. What are the two issues facing Fannin County that are of greatest concern to you? What would you do to resolve them, and why do you think they have not yet been resolved?
Well, for one, I think just, again, listening, I think this Van Roth or the White Path building has been an issue. I do understand that it's probably going to come to fruition regardless, but I think it was a lack of community involvement, if you will. Even though they voted on it in a, for the SPLOST money and mandated that yeah, we need to have an administration building or a parking deck. I'm not sure as that building would have been the right choice. And had we went out into the community and maybe had a workshop with the community, and again, I apologize if you had one and I wasn't there. I do work a full-time job. But I think the community involvement is key in this. I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed, that ties in with the library as well. I also think listening, animal control, he brought it up just a second ago, animal control is another issue. I don't think those are maybe animal control is not the second biggest, but I do believe that the library issue needs to be resolved, is what it needs to be done.
Thank you. Mr. Helton, what in your mind are the two issues facing Fannin County that are of greatest concern? What would you do to resolve them, and why do you think they have not yet been resolved?
Well, as we speak today, the pandemic, I think, is the biggest concern, and it's not just what you see physically happening and concerns, it's the panic people can feel overall. We've tried to make wise decisions and stick with those with advice from experts to try to calm the citizens down to realize we're doing what we can to fight an invisible enemy. Now, again, we go back to the Van Ralt building. That was voted on in 2016 by 56% of the people voted on that resolution, SPLOST resolution. Now, you simply cannot go out in the community and say, hey, we've got $3 million, anybody want to sell me their building? I would challenge anyone, challenge you, Mr. Hensley, to go out into the city of Blue Ridge, within that area, within a mile of the courthouse, and find something you could purchase for $1.3 million, 4.7 acres, including 36,000 square feet. That does have to be repurposed, but I challenge anyone to do that. You can't go out in the public and like the town crier and ask for that. What you'll wind up getting is paying 2 or 3 times what you should do. So that's not doing due diligence. Animal control, if you want to mention that one, when I first came into the office, and actually prior to that, I worked for 7 months on my own with the previous chairman's agreement to learn about the county. We found that place needed improvements where the animals could be treated better, where they could exit their cages and that they could have cleaning behind them and let the dogs go out into an open air cage. We've added, with the help of some great volunteers that put money up, fencing allows people to come out and socialize with the animals. It's helped move animals through there. And folks like Team Dahlonega, who's one of our great volunteer groups, they've really, really done a great job of rehoming animals and getting them to the point where they can be rehomed. Thank you.
Mr. Hensley, would you like a rebuttal?
Actually, I would on this one. I do remember Mr. Helton coming to me at I believe it was a precinct meeting, and I understood that he had worked within the county for 7 months, and he had just heard that I was starting this campaign, and I asked him, I said, I don't think I'm going to get that same opportunity, am I? And he said, I don't think so. So for him to have been able to go out and work within the community for 7 months, I mean, he learned a lot in that time, and he did. I didn't have that opportunity, obviously. I've tried to learn as much as I possibly can. I don't have the stats and the figures that he does. However, we go back into some common sense, and we can make things happen. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question, Mr. Helton will ask you this one first. Are you committed to relocating the library to the new county administration building? And if so, how do you propose to fund the required county match?
Well, the library board, I think about 8 out of 10 have been very excited about this possibility. We've had them out there to look at that. We've had the regional person that's over the mountain regional system that's been out there. We've had the state library administrator has been out there, and they were very excited because one of the common things that's happening, or new things, as you go around the state, you can find these old buildings that are solid as a rock and repurpose them and do something marvelous. You just have to have a little vision to do that. And what you can get is something. Van Ralt has been history in this county, so you've got history at the same time that you could move the library in there. And I certainly, with the library board, they have to, of course, vote. We have to see if the governor signed off on this $2 million grant. And the one thing that is a possibility there is the $600,000 for a maximum grant that apparently is there. You really could pare that down where the 30% is not $600,000. Now, we're not there yet, but bear in mind, nothing has been voted on yet, and nothing would happen without the two post commissioners and myself if we have that opportunity to vote and agree on an amount. We've had joint meetings with the library board and with the board of commissioners, and I would expect that we would have another one if we can get to that point and try to work out something that's the best thing for Fannin County. If you don't stick your neck out occasionally and you're just worried about making this person happy or losing that vote, you'll never get anywhere. I believe in that. I think that's a good vision for the county, and I'm ready to move forward with it.
Mr. Hensley, the same question, I'll repeat it. Are you committed to relocating the library to the new county administration building? And if so, how do you propose to fund the required county match?
Well, again, I think it's almost set in stone, we'll put it that way. I think there's been money allotted. I did read an email from that said the money should be available from the state in 4 to 5 months. So it looks like it may come to fruition. I understand the library board hasn't voted on it, and like Mr. Helton said, you know, it's a vote that the commissioners have to make as well. To come up with the other $600,000, again, we would see if we could try to figure out a way to nibble that off a little bit, to get it down a little bit lower. So just do the best we possibly can. If we're fortunate enough to get elected, and we'll deal with the hand that we're dealt.
Okay, Mr. Helton, any rebuttal?
Well, one thing that was mentioned earlier was about the 7 months I worked. I have to remind Mr. Hensley that there was no opposition for me, and after May 24th of 2016, unless I moved to Antarctica, I was going to be the new chairman. So I worked out in the county on my own dime, on my own time. I didn't receive 1 penny for doing that. And Mr. Hensley, if you'd won out right back in May, you might have already been out there working, who knows? But the library has been promised things for years, promise after promise. Promises don't cut it. You've got to take action. You have to stick your neck out, and our Speaker of the House has done so to try to help. Now, of course, the state had to reduce their budget by 10%. That involved over $1 billion. So we don't really know at this point where all those funds are. But in our case, any funds that would be spent on the county budget for the library would be decided on for the 2021 budget, which has not been voted on and will not be until the end of the year. So we're just trying to do the best we can for the library. And let me expand just a second. Library is a community service area. There's more than just, it's not just books. The location where we're at is right below the school. So kids after school could come down. There's programs that the library offers for self-education, for young and for old. People can apply for jobs on the computer systems there if they don't have those at home. So the genealogy, like they do in Union County, there's a number of things that the library offers that's really more of a community service than just simply checking out books. So it's a great thing. We just have to be able to fund that in a reasonable, common sense way.
So the next question begins with you, Mr. Hensley, and let's talk about COVID-19 again. Now that we are opening up from the health emergency, what was learned that will influence your decision should we have a future outbreak in Fannin County? What steps will you take to ensure the continued safety of county employees, citizens, and visitors?
Well, I feel that we need to follow the CDC guidelines. Any emergency order set forth by the governor, we need to follow those guidelines. And honestly, I believe common sense comes back into play. If you're sick, obviously stay at home. You know, that's the biggest thing. Hopefully, we can skew these numbers to where they're going back down. I understand that we've had a little lift here in the last few days. But what I would do my best would be just to tell people, you know, hey, here's the guidelines to go by. Again, it's common sense. It's washing yourself up, you know, washing your hands regular. Please don't go to your face, things like that. But it's following the guidelines set forth by the CDC, the doctors, you know, the professionals that we listen to, trying to follow those guidelines. That way, the pandemic doesn't hit us hard as it did the first time. And there's a lot of people that did suffer from that. You know, we had businesses within the county. Some of them did shut down. They just couldn't come back from it. And hopefully we can curve it to where it doesn't hit us that hard again, and just stay on top of it.
Mr. Helton, now that we're opening up from the health emergency, what was learned that will influence your decision should we have a future outbreak in Fannin County? What steps will you take to ensure the continued safety of employees, citizens, and visitors?
Well, first of all, Stephen, 9 days after our Board of Commissioners enacted our emergency declaration back on March 23rd, 9 days after that, Governor Kemp enacted his own emergency order, which superseded what the county did. So we hit that as hard as we could, and unfortunately, it was the tourism business that suffered, and my heart goes out to the folks that were harmed by that financially, business owners, and very importantly, the folks that work there, because a lot of people live not just week by week, but day by day. These are the people that got hit very hard. But some of the lessons that we've learned, and of course, the guidelines, the health guidelines that we've all pretty well become familiar with now, we really have gotten some help potentially through the state. Georgia received $4.1 billion under the CARES Act of federal funds that came. Initially, the governor gave funds only to counties with populations of 500,000 or more. Since that time, they've adjusted that to send 45% of those funds out to all the cities, the townships, and the counties. So some of the expenditures we're incurring right now, we'll be able to bring those to the state for refunding. Now, as far as actions, our EMS has put together a plan from CDC and Department of Health guidelines, and this covers what's necessary not only for our emergency personnel, but can be adopted for the individuals and for the county, which we now, of course, check your temperature when we come in. We can't order masks, but we can highly recommend you to mask up. This does prevent, just like we're doing in the studios this evening. So we've learned those lessons. What we can't let happen is for fear to paralyze us. So we're going to do our best with that.
Mr. Hensley, would you like a rebuttal statement?
No, I'm good, thank you.
The next question begins with you. What has been the financial impact of the health emergency on Fannin County? How do you propose to address this situation in next year's budget?
Well, the health emergency, obviously with our tourism, we've lost tax dollars, revenue coming in, obviously. What I would very much like to see would be the final numbers at the end of the year. I know it's impacted several. Our business as well was impacted. We just done our best to make sure we survived, and here we are. But at the end of the day, I think we have to look at the numbers more toward the end of the year that do come in. And with those numbers coming in, again, I think everyone can look out their window and on 515 and see the people that are coming back to Fannin County with that tourism. And I believe the numbers, we're going to bounce back pretty well. I just feel that, barring another pandemic and a shutdown, a major meltdown, if you will. But I think we have to look at those numbers towards the end of the year before we can really get a grasp on the impact of the budget for next year. That's how I feel.
Thank you. Mr. Helton, what has been the financial impact of the health emergency on Fannin County? How do you propose to address this situation in next year's budget?
Well, Stephen, through the middle of March, Fannin County's economy was humming along. The unemployment rate was about 2.7%. The tourism and the home building industry, which are our two backbone businesses in the county, were as strong as ever. The middle of March through April, we came to a screeching halt. And of course, at that point, we were very concerned about how quickly we would rebound. But here's the two key things about that. Tourism in our county is so strong, and we have such a great chamber. We had in 2019 $182 million in direct tourism spending in our county. Now here's the good thing about this. Airlines, of course, are suffering. People don't want to fly to the West Coast or Hawaii, but they do want to come up to Fannin County because we got beauty, we got this great mountain air, we got all these 1,500 secondary homes for rental, and they're going to come up here, and that's going to help us with that. Our building industry, again, through 2019, we were having a year as well on building permits as we'd had since 14 years prior to that. Tuesday night, we signed variances for 7 new homes in the county. Folks still like to come up here as long as God has these mountains, and people from Florida come up here from flat ground and they see these views, they're going to start building homes. So we're seeing the rebound from that. And as I mentioned earlier, the numbers in March and April were a little scary. The end of May, we're only 2% down on revenue, and by controlling our expenses, we brought that budget expenditures down about 8%. So we're really doing pretty well, 6% ahead of budget when you weigh that out. In May and in June, we're having extremely strong funds coming in from tourism, and that's it.
Mr. Hensley, would you like a rebuttal? Thank you.
Okay, the next question, and Mr. Helton, we'll start with you. Fannin County is currently projecting a very pet-friendly image to the general public and to the tourist. What are your plans for improvements to the local animal shelter services, or do you see a need for such improvements?
I'm sorry, I could barely hear you. Do you mind?
Sure, let me repeat that again. Fannin County is currently projecting a very pet-friendly image to the general public and to our tourists. What are your plans for improvements to our local animal control services, or do you see a need for improvements in those services?
I'm glad you asked that question. Let me give you some realities. During the 7 months that I had to work prior to coming into office, I spent some time at animal control, and I have to tell you, I don't know how the animal control officers could work down there with the noise that they had. All the animals were contained in that building. It wasn't vented very well, and it was horrendous for people to try to call in and they were trying to respond by phone when you have this horrendous noise. So it really was not a good situation. We had animals, and I'll tell you about one when I first took office, that there was no hope of rehoming or reconditioning this pit bull, and it had been in there for 1 solid year. And the only time that animal ever got outside its cage was for someone to go in there, tether it, and pull it out. Unsafe for the workers and very, very traumatic for that animal. Since that time, by going around to other counties and looking at their facilities and the Humane Society, we put the guillotine doors, not to harm the dogs, of course, but so you could safely raise that door. Almost all animals want to go outside into their cage. It could be cleaned safely, better protection for our employees. The animals are better. And then as we've added on with the help and with the contributions from donators in the county, they have outside pens, 2 large fenced-in pens where they can socialize, where the animals can get a little better life again. And the volunteers, we started that program 2 years ago, and the volunteers have been tremendous because they can come in and help in whatever way they want to. The Development Authority and Ms. Gribble has been very gracious in allowing us to do a walking path for the animals out there. So we've had a number of improvements out there, and anyone who was there 3 years ago goes out there today, they can see that difference.
Okay. Mr. Hensley, the same question. Fannin County projects a very pet-friendly image to the general public and to the tourist. What are your plans for improvements to the local animal control services, or do you see a need for improvements?
Yeah, there's always a need for improvement in any department as far as that goes. And we have seen improvements within the last year, and we have. Thankful for the dog runs, if you will. The numerous volunteers, the donations that have come in to help to make that happen for those animals. I would also like to see another little area at some point in time to where when we go to adopt a pet, that you actually have maybe some one-on-one time with the animal to get to know it a little better. But there's always room for improvement, and that's in anything. Whether you think you're top of the stack, you're never not. You're never there. You always have to work to keep improving. And I think as that becomes more of an image, if you will, we have to build on that. And I think that is something that, in time that, again, we could be proud of and have part of that, within the pride of Fannin County. So.
Any rebuttal?
Well, I think I've talked about animal control with all the things that we've done out there. And certainly any organization, and you take Fannin County as a $28.5 million a year business, if you will. You can constantly find ways to improve any organization, and that's what we look for. Some of the big changes we've already put at animal control that were necessary, and that doesn't mean we sit back on our laurels, and people already have the opportunity to go out there and have one-on-one time with animals. We have 2 distinct pits, 2 distinct pens, and the ability for folks to go out and walk these dogs in a very safe area. So they already have that opportunity. But I think more and above, you have to look at overall, pay attention to everything in the county, not just animal control. Animal control is 1% of the county's budget, and it really should not dictate 50% of your time. So I believe you look at everything on a priority basis. The key thing to me, and this is one of the big jobs of a chairman, is to help select, and department heads are voted on by the entire board, but get the best people you can, tell them what you want, but let them decide how to do it. We have great personnel all through the county at Public Works, at the Rec Department, in the Financial Department, our EMS and fire, all the areas that are under our purview, and we can't, of course, interfere with the other elected officials, but we challenge them constantly to do the best, and you'd be amazed. So I'd give credit to everyone, including the post commissioners, but the department heads for the many changes they've done. They just need support, and that's what I like to do, is support and find good people and let them run with it.
Mr. Hensley, what are your plans to improve our infrastructure in regards to water, fire, and emergency services being able to service our growing area and the remote areas in our mountains effectively?
Well, I think working closely with the water authority system that we have, the people we have over that, we need to go out into the communities and see where we can improve that in the rural areas as you're talking about. I also believe that, and here we are again, asking for more money, but I do believe having the staff, like with our fire department, for instance, and I understand we've hired 6 firefighters, and we're thankful for that. So I think we're on the way to bring those ISO ratings down for sure. But once again, I think it's a team effort, and I think you have to go out in each area to work together as a team to bring the ISO rating down. But to see what the needs are in the county and see, the costs, if there's any grants out there that we can to run the water to the far ends, if you will. But I do believe that we are on the path with the fire department. We just need to get more. We need to get more manpower to make that happen, to also get that rating down as well. So.
Mr. Helton, what are your plans to improve our infrastructure in regards to water, fire, and emergency services being able to service our growing area and the remote areas in our mountains effectively?
Well, first of all, Stephen, I was on the Water Authority for 3 years. I was chairman, and I'm very familiar with those operations. the county water authority basically works in the void areas that Blue Ridge and McKaysville and Morganton don't cover. Now, these areas are very expensive to get to, and we have a excellent group, 7 people on the board, business people that are making great decisions to expand the water authority, and the key number for them to get to be self-sufficient is around 1,000 customers. They're probably 40% of the way there, but the way to support that, and it was initially with SPLOST with a 10% allocation. In 2016, that allocation went to 7%. There'll be a SPLOST in 2022, and I would think that we would want to continue to support the water authority with SPLOST, but hopefully they're getting more self-sufficient so we don't have to maintain that 7%, but we could use that money towards other infrastructures. Now, we support the infrastructure with the public safety. There's 40% of the county's expenditures goes towards public safety because when someone dials 911, one of the 27,000 911 calls that come in each year, we don't ask if you're a citizen or not. We just try to get out there. Now, the new fire station on Windy Ridge has improved response time all over the county. If we can get to the Mineral Bluff station, which is another heavily called station with a 24/7 fully manned or womaned operation, then we can get to that part of the county better. So it's just continuing with that, supporting the water authority, supporting public safety, and we've spent about $1.5 million in the last 3 years on equipment for public safety, sheriff, fire department, and all the others.
Mr. Hensley, would you like a rebuttal? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next question, and we've touched on this a little bit, but the upwardly revised ISO rating for Fannin County, which influences home insurance rate, has been discussed quite a bit in the last 10 months. What specific actions do you propose to lower the ISO rating? And Mr. Helton, we'll start with you on this question.
Well, ISO stands for the Insurance Services Office, and they score the fire department's ability to protect the community. A 1 rating is best, a 10 rating is worst, and they do this on a 100-point scale. Personnel, training, and equipment is 50% of that rating. Water supply is 40%. So if your home or business is beyond a 5-mile radius and you don't have a fire station within 5 miles, or you're away 1,000 feet away from a fire hydrant, you have the worst rating, a 10 rating, which in our rural county is not that uncommon. But we had a rating in 2012 of 5, and that was raised in 2018 to a 6, raised detrimentally. Although it wasn't a huge difference, it was a rating system just like the old school grades. A B is 80 to 90. We may have had a low B before, now we have a high C. But that did put us into a detrimental rating compared to what we had. What we've done, for the first time ever, Fannin County has 6 new full-time firefighters. They don't do any other activity except address fire issues. And what they can do and are doing is working on the training issues, the other things that go with hose and pump inspections. These are the testing things that help to get a better rating. Now, the water supply is very critical as well. And as I just mentioned, we had a meeting last week with all the municipalities, their key personnel, to talk about water supply, what can be done to make sure that it's better, that we're optimizing that, because after all, really ISO is a community effort. It's not just the fire department and no one else. But we're making a better effort, and the fire chief has assured me this November that we're going to get that fire rating back.
Okay, Mr. Hensley, what actions do you propose to lower the ISO rating?
Well, I think obviously I'm sure there's a set of guidelines that you have to go by. And I think once we get it back down, and again, I think we're on the track to getting it back down, as I stated before, but following those guidelines and being proactive in the future, staying to those guidelines, trying to, check the water supply like he was talking about. But I think maintenance, if you see that we're teetering, and I've seen a couple of pages of that, You know, this rating could cause, or, you know, this problem could cause the rating to go up, this problem causes the rating to go. I think following the guidelines first and foremost is what we need to do to keep, once we get it back down, to keep it down. And it's just following the guidelines.
Well, I've said it as plainly as I can say it. We are challenging, we are communicating, we have put money into the fire department with the new firefighters to address these issues. And we certainly are on track to get that back, and we're not shirking away from that. We were very open with the community about that rating system. And when you go from 2012 to 2018 and the ISO pops in your door, you better be ready. And it doesn't matter if you're a new commissioner or not. When you step into the office, you own it. I'll own it. We'll get it turned around.
Okay, the next question. We're seeing increasing interest in Fannin County by developers for high-density projects. What are your thoughts on growth and development in the county, and is our infrastructure keeping up with the growth? Mr. Helton, we'll start with you.
Well, Fannin County logistically is a difficult place to get to for large manufacturers. That's a difficult thing to get in. However, I think the key thing that the Board of Commissioners can do is keep taxes low. Keeping taxes low makes people want to come up here, buy homes to fuel our building industry. It also makes it very attractive for business. Now, we have some great people with the chamber and a real good lady that's all plugged in from the Development Authority, Ms. Gribble, who is constantly working on this to try to come up with opportunities for jobs. She's been involved in the last 3 years and with potential jobs coming into the county that are related to that, anywhere from 250 to 350 potential new jobs that go along with that. A lot of the retail growth, of course, has been around Blue Ridge within the city, but the infrastructure in the county is something that just doesn't happen overnight. The folks that are moving here, when they're looking to buy homes, they want to live on paved roads. That's one of the first questions they ask for realtors. And something I've discovered on the 80+ roads and 84 miles that have been resurfaced or chip sealed in areas that probably never would, that have been dirt for 50, 60 years. This is making it very attractive for these people to come up here and continue buying homes to fuel the thing that's really the mainstay. And they love that. It's aesthetically pleasing. We're able to do this quickly, and it's a great surface, and we're not expanding or spending a tremendous amount of money on gravel scraping, and folks don't have to eat that dust if they sit on the front porch. And when we do that, we see property sales all over on these new roads. So we're on the right path to continue that. You have to do it slowly and steadily.
Mr. Hensley, we're seeing increasing interest in Fannin County by developers for high-density projects. What are your thoughts on growth and development in the county, and is our infrastructure keeping up with the growth?
Well, I would love to work with the Development Authority and the Chamber as well to bring more jobs into Fannin County. And again, I fully understand we're not going to get a plant that has 500 jobs, but like with White Path, you know, we lost probably 50 to 75 jobs there out of Fannin County. I would love to see that come back in. We're thankful that people come up here to live, and we are. That is revenue in the long run for us coming in, tax revenue, obviously. Our infrastructure, we really, with the growth that has surpassed us, and I keep saying that, it has surpassed us. I know it takes time to get caught up, but we will get caught up. And once that happens, then we can continue with the controlled growth. But that being said, I would love to see some more jobs come in to where my kids or my grandkids or you know whoever could have a job here at home, make a livable wage, if you will. And as we've seen during this pandemic that's hit us, some of the retail spaces did have to close down, and we lost jobs there as well. But I would really love to see, love to work with the Chamber and the Development Authority about bringing in some jobs to Fannin County. so better paying.
Any rebuttal?
Well, the Fannin unemployment rate back in 2016 was around 5.9%. That steadily decreased to last year. For the entire year, the unemployment rate was 2.9%. Now again, we were humming right along until this COVID hit. And the unemployment rate spiked up to 9.4% in April. It's come back down to 6%, and actually, out of the 15 counties in the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission, Fannin's unemployment rate is the second lowest. Now, we can't get away from our strengths, which is tourism and home builders. We work very closely with the Home Builder Association. I've had meetings with them, asked them what their vision is for Fannin County, what's good for the builders, what's bad for the builders, and try to factor that all into what's best for Fannin County. So working with not just the great folks I mentioned, but individual groups that can bring a lot of jobs in is something that we need to continue to do. And again, Fannin County is streamlined compared to some other counties about zoning. If someone wants to come in and build a home on the side of a mountain and it needs to be 20 feet further in rather than 35 feet, well, that might cost a builder $20,000, $25,000. Makes the price higher, makes the home purchase unattractive. They might go to Union County. We work with them in a non-bureaucratic way where they can come in front of the board, in front of all three commissioners. We can make a decision for them normally right there. If there are objections from people in the community about it, we basically table that for 2 weeks for a cooling off period, then come back and make a final decision. Last Tuesday, having 7 new homes as proposed that just needed a little help from the builders, that's one of the greatest things you can do as a chairman, to be part of that and helping someone build a home, to employ local folks and bring money into the county.
Mr. Hensley, the old fire station property was initially considered for a parking deck and expansion of administrative offices. What are your thoughts on developing that piece of property?
Well, first of all, you have some departments in there as well already. If you were looking to develop it into a parking deck, something to that effect, first thing you have to do is look at relocating what's in there already. The other part about that, with a parking deck, and again, we look at the revenue that it could have brought in, or just the relief of the parking that's along the main street there. At this point, again, we have to look at all aspects. Is the cost of moving the departments in there going to outweigh what we, leaving them in there? Are we going to save money by leaving them in there, or with the revenue coming in from a parking deck, or the, allowing more parking spaces on the main drag there, so to speak? You have to look at everything in, moving forward. What's going to be best 10 years down the road for us. So that's where I'm at on that.
Mr. Helton, the old fire station property was initially considered for a parking deck and an expansion of administrative offices. What are your thoughts on how to develop that piece of property?
Steve and I have some great news for everybody, and for you too, Mr. Hensley. That big hole in the ground over there, you see all this work, is going to be a retail development that's going to bring over 100 jobs and a 2-story parking deck, $6-7 million out of private funds. Won't cost the county a penny. Right there next door, 184 spots. Now the parking, obviously you don't borrow or spend $6-7 million for it to be free, but it certainly gives us the opportunity to really reduce the parking with private funds. Now, the old fire station property was appraised at over $500,000 by the ACCG insurance. Now, the property above it, where the old 911 and current Social Security is, that building was evaluated at almost $750,000. So why would you destroy over $1 million in county assets? What we've done slowly over at the old fire station is put in a new roof, $22,000 to $23,000. But you know what? We moved the public defender's office over there, who had their rent doubled, was going to cost $27,000 a year of taxpayer money. Now they're over there in the old fire station area, and it doesn't cost anything additional to the taxpayers. We have a bigger office for the coroner. We have, of course, the extension office upstairs, the Red Cross, and possibly the authority out at the dam for underprivileged folks that can office there, and we have a chaplain. So with the expensive downtown real estate in Blue Ridge and how much it costs to go out and get rent offices, spending a little money, a little TLC that had not been spent there in 8 years is to me the perfect answer to save the county money and have a little history there and something that's proximate to the courthouse. So all that's been addressed.
Thank you. Would you like a rebuttal?
Yeah, actually I would. First of all, we're thankful that it didn't cost the taxpayers any money for that private organization to come in and build that. But he did touch on something. It's 184 parking spots at a cost. From what I understand, it was going to be $5 a car. So what I'm looking at is if it's going to create 100 jobs, well, that's 84 parking spots, because I guarantee you those 100 people are going to be going into that parking deck. So there's 84 parking spots. Well, with over 30,000 square foot of retail space, how much more traffic is that going to bring downtown Blue Ridge? It's going to bring a whole lot more. So those 84 parking spaces are now tied up, and we still have the influx of traffic coming downtown. Where it may have taken up 184 parking spots right there, the traffic that retail space is going to bring in, and we're thankful again that it's bringing money into this county and within the city. But the influx of traffic coming down through there, to me, it just bottlenecks again. We've really served no purpose, and I say that we've created jobs, absolutely. There's 100 jobs created, so to speak. We have retail coming in, but my point is there's still congestion in that area, and it brings more in with the more retail space that comes in, and it does.
Thank you.
All right, the next question. What are your thoughts on allowing public comment on each agenda item during a meeting? Mr. Helton, we'll start with you.
Well, before I took office, I went to almost all of our county meetings there, and folks that wanted to make public comments had to wait till the very end of the meeting. Now, if someone comes there from one end of the county and they have something they want to address, if they have to sit there for an hour and a half for a meeting before they address that, I think that's not really being very considerate of them. So one of the first things we did is move public commentary to the beginning of the meeting, 3 minutes. Well, the average person can speak 120 to 140 words a minute. I might be 200. But if you really have a concern, you have the opportunity to get up and address your concern at the beginning of the meeting and not wait until the end. And observing what we had seen, and I learned from this, the meeting is for the Board of Commissioners to legally meet in an open environment and make decisions. And if the public certainly can have their public commentary, there's agenda that's out there publicly well in advance of the meeting. If they want to mention something on that, they can. But unfortunately, what can happen is in a meeting environment, you're trying to get through an agenda and get decisions made with the guys that you really can't meet with except at that point. And if someone wants to comment on everything you're doing, like I saw 4 years before, it just turned into a circus. And I don't think that's a way to run a meeting. I think the business meetings, they should be business-like, brief, and really boring. And unfortunately, there's some folks there that want to come and just get their name in the paper or something. 4 people in 1 year were 55% of the total comments for the whole year. They can contact me individually or the other commissioners if they have a real concern. They don't have to wait till the meeting. So I think it's working well.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hensley, what are your thoughts on allowing public comment on each agenda item during a meeting?
Well, obviously, if elected as Commissioner Chairman, I'll be available at any time, and I'm sure the other 2 commissioners will be as well. I would love to see, especially on larger items, there actually maybe be a workshop. And I understand we do have workshops now, but I would love to see maybe a workshop a couple of days before the meeting, if possible, I would also look into if there's a motion made, or we're going to vote on something that's really huge. Once a motion is made, and if we have a second to move forward with a vote, to give the opportunity for the people to speak at that time, especially if it's a larger item that's needing to be voted on. So at that time, we would ask for public comment. We would keep it to a minimum, obviously, because we know that it can drag out, and we understand that. So you do have to have some organization in that, but in order to you have to let the public speak, and you do.
Okay, any rebuttal?
Well, it's a whole different game when you're sitting up there and trying to get through a meeting in order and an orderly fashion. You're dealing with information, and you don't get a second chance at it. So you're trying to get the input from the commissioners, who are elected voices from the community. And every commissioner has the opportunity, and they do, as well as myself, get input from the public. And there's a lot of people in the community, business people and just some plain old wise folks that I talk to all the time, and they give me input constantly, and I listen to them. Now, during the meeting, because you have, it's an open meeting, it's videoed, and it's put on the county website, so any citizen can go on there and see what transpired. There's nothing being hidden whatsoever with that. But the meetings, once you have the public commentary, then you've got to proceed on with the business of the people. Now, that meeting is for the people, but it's not necessarily a meeting of the people. Certainly workshops, and we've had these opportunities where folks have weighed in on issues that really speak to the heart of people, like the Second Amendment, of having the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution, which the people demanded. We had that whole courtroom just packed with people. You weren't there, Mr. Hensley, but all the other candidates that were running were, and we gave every person in that room the opportunity to voice their opinion, and they did. And we made a decision for them that was for the people, and that issue has gone away, and people were comforted that we weren't going to sit by and let their Second Amendment rights be absconded by some other outside government. So we do this. We do the best we can to present these meetings in a precise way that's accurate, because if we mess up, you can do something illegally and not even intend to do it if you don't have the chance.
All right. We did our opening statements, and Mr. Helton spoke first, and then Mr. Hensley. Mr. Helton had the first word for our closing statements. Now we're going to start with Mr. Helton again, so Mr. Hensley can have the last word. So if Mr. Helton, if you'll begin, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
All right. On August 11th, you, the voters of Fannin County, are going to decide the very important decision of who's going to be the leader for your commission chairman over the next 4 years. Now, 4 years ago, I did not accept any campaign money, and I've not taken a dime from anyone since then. My opponent cannot say that. I certainly accept advice and support from people all through the community, but you can be assured that nobody buys influence in my administration. Over the last 3.5 years, we've raised the bar on professionalism by hiring the most qualified candidates, and we've not used your tax dollars to give jobs to friends or close family. That's nepotism. It's an old way to run government, and it's not a path for success for the future of your county. It's easy for an inexperienced candidate to make a lot of insincere promises, but when you sit behind that chairman's desk, you own it. You've got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. My years of experience running a major oil company business, my business degree from the University of Georgia, my experience in being the Fannin County Water Authority chairman, my seat on the regional board that I've had for 7 years have been great teachers for me to learn about government and how to operate that. And during the current COVID pandemic, I relied on the advice and the faith of my Lord to deal with that ongoing safety issue. Now is not the time to change leadership. Last year, we dedicated the Fannin Safety Complex and put a stone that says it all for me. dedicated to, and paid for by the citizens of Fannin County. My name nor any other commissioners on there. I've never forgotten who I work for. It would be an honor to serve as your chairman again.
Okay, Mr. Hensley?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's right. Unfortunately, I don't have the money that Mr. Helton has, as he has so told me in the past. I did have to have some campaign funds. I sure did. But I can tell you this wholeheartedly, and you can ask anybody, I have made no campaign promises, not one. The only promise that I will tell you right now is that given an opportunity to serve you as your commission chairman, you will not find anybody that will work any harder than I will to serve you, the people of Fannin County, and that's a guarantee. I do apologize I wasn't there at the Second Amendment meeting. Unfortunately, I have to work. I have a full-time job, and it carries me out of town quite a bit. So I do apologize that, but my heart was there. I guarantee you that. And my heart is with you, the citizens of Fannin County. My heart is with everybody that works within this county. And I know that together, ladies and gentlemen, we can make a difference. If you're happy with what you've had in the last 3.5 years, by all means, put Mr. Helton back in. But if you're really wanting to change for somebody who's going to work for you and listen to you every day, give me an opportunity. I will not let you down. Thank you.
That concludes the Fannin County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. We want to thank both candidates for your participation in this forum. Your responses will help inform voters who will be making an important choice for Fannin County. Early voting begins July 20th. Voting day is August 11th. Please get out there and vote. Thank you.